is Emma Grantham in Miss Carochi's 5th grade class, and I'm reading my scary story, End Times, which is a first place winner. I hope in these last few moments before the world ends, I may tell my story. But please don't make my mistake. Don't go looking for this trouble, for it will burden you owed so gravely. My dear friend has used the last of her magic to transport this to a time when this hasn't happened. You will probably understand better if I tell you my story. Very well. I had always wanted something interesting to happen to me, but nothing ever did. It was a boring, average day at the mall. We were drinking milkshakes and eating cheesy fries. But when my BFF Emily told me this bonkers story about some girl who got lost in the woods and found the circle of red stones. It apparently took place in our town's very own Sherlock Forest. Has your older brother got a hold of you again? I laughed. Yeah, she mumbled as she got up to throw away her milkshake cup. I grabbed 2 French fries and arranged them in my mouth to where they look like Dracula fangs. So, she sees Dracula, I say? I want to suck your blood. You're gross, she said as she grabbed her own French fries and made herself some fangs. Her mom entered the milkshake shop carrying a ton of shopping bags. Hey Mom, want to hit the wheelbarrow shop next? Emily joked. My mom was next to Emily's and told us, time to go, girls. I couldn't get this thought on my head. What if the story is true? This could be the exciting thing I've been waiting for. I ran outside to Mom, who was watering the flowers, and asked, can we go camping in Sherlock Forest? And to much surprise, she said, anything to get your brother out of the house. After a week of packing, we headed out to Sherlock Forest. I looked out the window of the car and saw a couple of crows out the window. Is that a flock of crows? I asked my brother. No, not enough to be one, he said. Plus, it's a murder of crows, not a flock. I got mad and decided to take a nap. When I woke up, we were at camp and Dad had already set up our tents. One for Mom and Dad and one for my brother and me. We always went camping in the same spot near a cliff at the edge of the trees, overlooking the town. I grabbed my bag and started to unpack when I felt as though I was being watched. When I turned around, all I saw were 3 black crows. I shrugged and walked away. We soon ate dinner and roasted s'mores. After finishing my 5th, I asked, can I go explore? Starting to look for my flashlight, she answers, only if you bring your brother and stay on the path. I groaned, not James. But I took the offer. After all, it wasn't every day I got to look for some creepy ring of blood red stones. After forever, I turned around and didn't see my brother. How could he ditch me? I yelled. I heard the fluttering of wings. Thousands of them. I looked up to see crows. Thousands of them. In a flock. No. A murder. I ran until I fell down the hill. Bushes and trees pummeled me with their branches. I stopped rolling near a circle of trees with 9 red stones between each tree. I peer in, hoping to see something, but I only see 2 crows just like the 3 I saw earlier. Where's the 3rd? I asked, not even knowing what I had meant. I stepped in the circle, feeling a shiver go up my spine. Something was behind me. It was a crow. I exhaled a sigh of relief until the crow started to change shape. It grew and changed until it became a hideous witch. Hello! Cackled 2 more witches from behind me. The crows were now witches just like the other. Name our names and we will leave thee, but refuse and we shall be released. They chanted. I was about to run when I heard a voice in the wind. Snakewood, Mutra, and more. She was interrupted by the witches cackling. I answered, trying to make sense to the last name. Snakewood, Mutra, and Mora? 2 of the witches screamed, but the 3rd said, ha! My name is Morgana, and now we are free! She picked up a pebble and transformed it into a huge fireball, which she threw directly at me. I screamed, but I was never hit by the ball of fire. I fainted from fear and exhaustion, only to wake up to quite a surprise. That was part 1, and I'm turning the page, and then... I think she's dead, said a female voice. I just checked her pulse, Kara, said another. The one named Kara then stated, Well, Mariachi, why isn't she awake yet? Turn to a bird and fly away, Mariachi said. I sat up startled. They both looked at me. The boy, Mariachi, looked about age 18. He had dark brown eyes and wore a tattered robe the color blue. The girl, Kara, looked much younger, about age 13. She had lovely green eyes, but her face was smudged with ash and wore a blue cloak like the boy's, except it wasn't tattered. It was burnt. You saved me from a fire, Pebble? I said, feeling stupid, still feeling rather drowsy from fainting. Indeed I did, Summoner, Kara said. So do you have a name, or shall I call you Summoner? It's Rena, I responded. Why did you take me to your cave? To protect you, and it's actually a hut. Now stop talking! Hurry, the witch is overhead! Mariachi hissed, putting his dirty hand over my mouth. I tried to pull it away until I, too, heard the cackle of the witches. Kara mumbled something, and I couldn't see my hands. Or, well, any of me. We heard a thud, and 3 witches entered the hut. I think you have my summoner, cackled the witch, the one named Morgana. I thought you would have killed her by now, said Mariachi, acting as if he didn't know a thing. I would have, but your little friend here stopped her, Morgana continued. My old familiar Mariachi, or should I say Sage, my old faithful crow. I was never faithful to you, Mariachi snapped. Kara gulped and started to change like the crow did when it turned into a witch. She turned into a raven and flew to Mariachi's shoulder, tearing his robe. She cawed and sat there. The 3 witches looked somewhat scared. Morgana said. After forever, Morgana finally said, Snakewood, Mutra, sniff her out. The witches started to wander around the room, sniffing with their huge, warty noses. The witches found nothing because I had hid under the cot. I resisted the urge to sneeze. Finally, the witches left, and I was pulled out from under the cot by Mariachi. Kara was changing back into a human. I looked around, and the place was a mess. A closet was open, and its contents spewed out. Broken glass littered the floor from broken bottles thrown from shelves. I ran to Kara and said, Take me home, I don't want to die. It's not up to me, she said, looking toward Mariachi. How can I trust him? He was Sage! She was older than me by a year. She acted so much more mature. They both mumbled something and I was frozen. They mumbled something else and I was floating. They floated me outside and took me back to the camp where my mom and dad were. I ran into a tent expecting to see them, but it was empty. I ran into the other and I didn't find my brother either. Made sense. I ran to the cliff and looked out as the town was in ruins. Bodies littered the ground and buildings were falling apart. Kara said, Above the trees, they're free from their prison and can wreak havoc. How could they in such a short amount of time? I asked. Time is slower in the forest, Kara said. We have to stop it, I yelled. Mariachi covered my mouth again, but this time I objected. I push away and yell, I have to stop this. Teach me what you do. Mariachi nods and gives me a stone. He walks me to the edge of the cliff and pushes me off it. Don't let go of the stone and think about a bird. I hold on tight to the stone. Instead of dying, I was flying? I turned into a bird and flew up to Mariachi and Kara, who were also in bird form. We flew and Mariachi squawked instructions at me. Oh, here, let me translate. When you see the witches say Mutra, Snakewood, and Morgana, I demand you to stop as your summoner. I squawked back at him. I landed in the city square, and now that I was up close to the scene, I was truly frightened. The bodies were ripped open, blood covering the streets. Organs were ripped out with only the heart missing. In the middle of the mess stood the witch, swollen with power. I ran and yelled, Snakewood, Mutra, and... I couldn't remember the last name, so I guessed. Mora, I demand you to stop as your summoner. Wrong! Screeched the witch as she made an energy blast that nearly killed us. Mariachi is fighting her as I write this letter. I hope you get this as my friend is giving her life to send it. Don't go looking. Don't look for the gems, and don't wake the 3 black crows. Don't, because they are only the beginning. The other 6 stones were cracked, but 1 was restored. 1 more of the 9 stones. I hope you get this letter, and hopefully another, but I doubt it. Sincerely, Rena Black. I hope you like my story.